this chit chat. Grab your popcorn, sit tight, we're ready to roll. In the heart of Sacktown, we're feeding your soul. In the King's Court, the vibe's electric. If you don't like that, we're here to correct it. With the best in the game, we're raising the bar. From the hardwood to the airways, we're the King's shining star. With the NFL, Adams in the ring. Rhino's got the wisdom, hear the praises we sing. Court in session, it's a royal affair. With the fans all around, feel the passion in the air. In the King's Court, the vibe's electric. If you don't like that, we're here to correct it. With the best in the game, we're raising the bar. From the hardwood to the airways, we're the King's shining star.
Every team really needs what I call a shit.
It is Jerry Reynolds Tuesday, favorite day of the week around here on the King's Court. Thanks for being here. Ryan in Sacktown with you. Court in session.
Order in the court.
We are going to hit some stuff that can go beyond sport today. So I want to keep the conversation in the first hour as responsible as we possibly can and not take it down the path that it can easily go. I want to take it down the sports path, the effect, the cause. You probably know what I'm talking about. It is the shooting that happened in New York City with the gunman heading to the NFL offices. He just happened to take the wrong elevator. So want to get into that, want to hear what y'all want to talk about. You can call the show if you'd like, or hit the link in the chat and we will get to your calls. You can also scan the QR code that's on the screen. And I have asked and y'all have responded. Thank you very much. That was yesterday. We have been trying to get one more like than the day before. We jumped to 34 yesterday. Can we get 35 today? Can we get to 35? Heck, even if we just do one more than Friday's show, I'm happy. And we're going to pay it off for you with a get-together, hopefully, in the next couple months at Bennett's. We'll give you more information on that as the month goes along. So a lot to get into. Again, can't wait. We are going to roll our sleeves up to our freaking necks.
Roll up those sleeves to your freaking neck.
And talk to Jerry about the Kings. Any questions you have for Jerry, put them in the chat. And actually, don't put them in the chat yet. Put them in about 350, 355-ish. We'll get to as many as we can with him. And we're going to play a little game with Jerry. We're going to test Jerry's basketball knowledge. Some of you might know where I'm going with that, but I am really interested to see what he can do with 9 basketball questions. There's your hint right there. So let's get into it right off the bat because I started with it. The shooting in New York. A gunman drove from Las Vegas, Nevada to New York City looking to get into the NFL offices. And he got into an office, got into the wrong building, but unfortunately killed 4 people. Wounded 1 that worked for the NFL. Had a note that we'll talk about in a little bit. Here was the latest report as of earlier today.
Well, certainly a somber tone out here outside of the league office today. No league employees here at the building. They've been told to work remotely or take the day off by Roger Goodell in a memo to them. But I can tell you that yesterday and the evening was a jarring situation for these league employees. At 6:30 p.m. is when the gunman did enter the building behind me. NFL employees were notified shortly after they received this memo. NFL staff are advised to shelter in place on their floor. Do not exit the building. Secure your location and hide until law enforcement clears your floor. Please switch phones to silent. Certainly, as they watched from the window upstairs with police entering the building, a frightening situation. Really, the building wasn't cleared until well after 9 p.m. So a very tough situation for the league office, and now certainly the aftermath also very jarring for this group.
Yeah. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter if it's the NFL, McDonald's, your financial advisor, your bank, your hair salon. It doesn't matter. Now, it gets more notoriety because it's the NFL. What I want to talk about is what was in that note. It's a loss of life, another loss of life with a firearm, with a complete intent, too. Had bearings about him to a degree. If you're going to drive from Las Vegas to New York, but the gunman claimed he had CTE. And that's what I want to have a bigger discussion about. The CTE discussion. We'll get into it here in a little bit. Also, we've got more gambling problems. Who would have thought? Emmanuel Clase has been suspended, put on leave by MLB pending an investigation. Some of the more recent reports, and he's suspended until September, the beginning of September, but some of the more recent reports are hinting at that it wasn't like throwing a game. It wasn't throwing a pitch and saying, I can't pitch anymore. I pulled something. Like, we're talking about bets on whether a pitch was going to be a strike, whether it was going to be considered a hittable ball. We're focusing in on 2 pitches. We had this discussion not 2 weeks ago on this show that was completely centered around the prop bets. Adam Silver, ears, whatever you want to call him. E.T., phone, home, whatever it is you want to call Adam Silver. Talked about, well, it's RIP, not RIP. That was interesting. It's our IP. We should have some legislative control over how it's used. Not if you're taking the ad money, not if they're sponsors. A little bit of a conflict of interest there, Adam, but it's widespread now. So this was a Cleveland. This is the Cleveland Sports Show that is going to talk a little bit more about what they saw and what they've heard into the investigation.
But shout out to, this is when Twitter, which has become less and less
reliable,
what it used to be, and more and more, AI farce stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does provide some really good context. And StatCast and Pitching Ninja went through and looked at every first pitch that Emmanuel Clase threw in an inning this season. And just a couple numbers I want to show you guys, which doesn't convict anyone, but it just adds a little context to the discussion we're about to have. So this season, there have been 22 pitches Emmanuel Clase has thrown with nobody on base and a 0-0 count. So 22 times, no outs, a 0-0 count.
That's weird.
11 of those 22 pitches were deemed uncompetitive, meaning nowhere near the strike zone.
Right.
Nothing that was even in a StatCast. When you see the strike zone, it would have been out. Fangraphs tracks waste pitches, which all pitchers have waste pitches. You're up 0-2, you want to get him to chase, you throw one deliberately way out of the zone.
But he doesn't throw a lot of those.
All other pitches that aren't first pitch of the at-bats, he has a 5.2% waste pitch percentage, which is one of the lowest in all of baseball. Starter, closer, reliever, one of the lowest. However, his first pitch waste percentage is more than triple every other pitch at 17.5%.
Right, which makes no sense.
And that is the thing I wanted to point out.
Yeah.
If you had an 0-2 count waste pitch percentage of 17.5%.
Well, waste, I think how they're.
He almost lost it there for a second. I'm sure some of you caught that. He was like, a pitch count. Way to get it back. Way to get it back, my man. But again, not a great situation. Not a great situation. On the heels, by the way, baseball. We always, us commoners, us non-professional athletes, us 8-to-5ers that aren't multi-millionaires, we bang our heads against the wall thinking you're making a ton. You're making generational wealth. Heck, this is baseball where the contracts are fully guaranteed. The same baseball that Bryce Harper got into the commissioner's face just a couple days ago and quote said, "Get the bleep out of our clubhouse if you want to talk about a salary cap." The players want their money, and the players are paid fairly well. What did Ohtani sign? And I know he's one of the outliers. 7 years, $700 million. You see 12-year contracts, 14-year contracts, which, by the way, Grant loves talking about those. Maybe you should bring those up tonight at 8 o'clock when he joins you again for another open forum show. But the money's there. Why? What is it about the extra 36? I'm making up a number, $1,000. What difference is that going to make? You know, it's one thing if you've got somebody that has their claws into you, like back in the old days. If you've got the mob after you, if you got a bookie, it's got his nails in the back of your arm, it's a little bit different. Ask Tim Donaghy. Different situation. Now you can do it legally. And the players, and this is just a off thought. How stupid. Like, think realistically. We were talking about the Super Bowl tickets that players were going to be disciplined over for selling over face value. These players that are getting caught gambling, they're gambling the stupidest, obscure bets and putting big amounts, which to them is not a big amount, but to us, to the people taking the bet, they're like, wow, for an in-game bet on one pitch, it's a lot of money. Oh, wait, that happened again? The next game he pitched? And again, they start seeing the trend and they point it out because they don't want to get in any trouble. They want to be the whistleblower. They want to show the public that we are handling this responsibly because they're making so much damn money. So innocent until proven guilty, but those are not very good numbers, in my opinion, that you just heard on the show. Charles Barkley unleashed on TNT. And you remember the whole situation around whether or not the NBA had the right to negotiate with Amazon before giving Turner a chance to retain rights to the NBA, and Turner files a lawsuit, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we all know the ending now. Those guys headed over to do it somewhere else, and they are bringing their own team. But when they were right in the heat of all of that and still trying to do their show and do their jobs, Charles kind of laid out the picture of how involved they were, and listen to how bad he says the communication was. And Charles and Shaq and Ernie, they're not worried about them. They've got money. They're worried about the 30, 40, 50, 60 other people that might make $60,000 a year operating the cameras. Here's what Chuck said.
And we're going to lose our job in 6 months. And then as it gets closer, you can see the concern. And I thought TNT, our bosses did a job. They did an awful job of keeping us abreast. Mm-hmm. I give an example. Like, we were playing golf during the playoffs, and we were reading the internet, finding out if we were going to get fired or not. Right. Yeah. And I was like, TNT, our bosses, they sucked, plain and simple. They're like, yo, man, just tell us. Yeah, let us know. Shoot us straight. Just shoot us straight. Yeah. These are real people. We literally were playing golf during the playoffs, looking at the internet. Then one story said we lost it. The next story said we're still in negotiation. Then we lost it. We're still in negotiation. And TNT never came to us like grown folks and said, hey, guys, we probably going to lose the NBA, which we could have understood. Right. But I thought they sucked. I told them they sucked because there's a way you treat people. Yeah. Because if they had came to us and said, hey, you know what? It's a lot of money. Because, you know, we were paying $1.2 billion a year, and it went to $2.5 billion. That's a lot of money for 11 years. Mm-hmm. If they had said it's not a good deal, we would have understood.
So Charles, who never usually pulls punches, I believe he was one of Grant's first guests here on the channel, on the podcast. very candid about what that looked like. And I get it. That was a big family. Not sure if you saw the documentary. It was like a hour 15 documentary on they ran it on game 4 of the conference finals, but it was behind the scenes of inside the NBA while all this was going on. So you would think they would be keeping the guys making the most money, like Chuck, involved in those talks. Apparently they did not. So good of Chuck for speaking out. All is resolved now, but that's Chuck for you, man. He's a straight shooter. I really appreciate that about Charles Barkley. Good dude, too. I've only had really great experiences with Charles Barkley, and I've had 2. So, all right. We've got other things to talk about. I see the question in the chat. DJ, what's up? DJ, what do you DJ? Are you a legit DJ? DJ Toasted? Or are you good at getting toasted? And you do it in a unique way? Let me know. I'm curious. See what everybody's thoughts are about Westbrook. Who will the Kings give up to get him? We had a massive conversation about it yesterday. We'll talk about it more today. And also definitely get to it with Jerry Reynolds, who joins us at the 4 o'clock hour. Again, favorite show of the week. Jerry will be here at 4. We'll ask him some of those things. I think I've made my thoughts fairly clear. I think Grant and I see things a little bit different. I caught a little bit of his show last night when he was talking about why bring in Westbrook. How does he help you win now? I don't think the Kings are looking at winning now. Now, that doesn't mean they're tanking. They can't, based off of the players they have on the roster. The way I explained it yesterday is with this new CBA, you now have 2 groups of people, or kids, I should say, 2 different groups of kids on the playground. One side of the playground is going all in, like Orlando, to win a championship. We think we can do it. We're willing to pay the tax. We're going to get what we want at whatever cost it's going to be. And then you have the other side of the playground of teams that are dismantling because of the consequences of the new CBA, and dismantling more than you would normally see and trying to get below because they know they can't win the title this year. Doesn't mean they might not be a playoff team. Doesn't mean that they might not win a playoff series. But teams like Boston, where you're likely going to be without Tatum for most of the season. Indiana has already said Tyrese will be out for the season. Indiana is kind of a different case because they haven't gone over in the last 12 years, which is an amazing stat. But you have those 2 groups. And then you've got the third group that I failed to mention at the beginning, because they're not even out at recess. They're in detention. And the Kings are a part of that group. They're not good enough to contend, make it interesting, win a playoff series, and they're not bad enough to get or be in the running for a very high draft pick in a draft, this coming draft, that's supposed to be pretty good. So the Kings are in detention. I don't think the Kings are win now mode. I think they're looking at, what do we do to develop the guys we want here in the next couple years and wait out some of these contracts until we can trade them? Now, I take Domantas Sabonis out of that category. I think as of now, he's part of the long-term plan here in Sacktown. Could change. The magic offer could come in for him. No doubt about it. But, if Zach LaVine, for instance, has an incredible season, and he stays healthy, he makes the all-star team, who knows? Maybe next offseason you can offload him to a team that feels like, we're Zach LaVine away. That could very well happen. Did anybody see Memphis getting 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bane? That's how much that player perfectly fit into Orlando's idea of winning, and they went and paid it. So maybe that offer comes around. So I think you have to consider what the style of basketball is going to be here in the next couple of years. And it's not going to be defensive. It's going to be offensive. Now, could you slowly start changing that if you're able to make trades at the deadline? If a team feels like they're a DeRozan away and that's when that trade happens, sure. You're looking to get things towards the future of what you want to be. I think the Kings are looking 2 years down the road while looking at these decisions. And that's why the Kuminga decision is really there's arguments for both sides of it. Very good arguments for both sides of it. I think he falls into the category that Jerry Reynolds talks about all the time, which is you got to get the guys that are on the way up. You want the guy that's going on his third stop that you think has a higher ceiling if you get him into your system and you get him into your incubator. Happened with Davion Mitchell in Miami. Jerry predicted that all along. He said that would happen. In fact, and this is, I'm not going to say he will be, but Jerry always thought that he could come out like a Kyle Lowry. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But Kuminga, it's kind of unknown. So we'll see what the Kings do. At $30 million a year, that's way too much. The Kings are not in the position to do that. That's just too much. I know Giddey, as of yesterday, and the Bulls were about $8 to $10 million off with their negotiations. So where I'm at with it and what I said yesterday was this. I don't like it. I love the kid. But I think for me, Keon is where it stops of what I'm willing to give up. I think Keegan is not going to be a part of that. I think they see Keegan as a part of the future. Monk, I just don't think you can trade Monk away. I don't with this team. Unless you think somebody's going to fill that role that Malik Monk filled, energy-wise, locker room-wise. So it's hard to read sometimes with Scott Perry, but I think the one thing we can say is they're looking down the road. Scott has set the bar fairly low in terms of expectations this year. And although if you want to be a defensive team, keeping Keon seems really smart. Keon's on a 1-year deal right now. What if you lost him next year for nothing? So you got to measure all those things. So I think a Keon feels right for me in any type of deal like that. Is that what the Warriors want? We'll see. So, all right, let's get to your chats, and then we will get into the meat and potatoes of the show. DJ Toasted, develop players and then let them go where they get good. Really need consistency. Like Perry said in his initial press conference, feel like players come to SAC knowing it's just a pit stop for something else. I understand that side of the argument. Let me give you the other side of the argument. Sacramento has been an incubator, like perfect temperature, top of the line incubator for developing guys that aren't drafted, both finding them and developing them. You have to look at fit when it comes to the player. The Kings, whatever their idea was under Monty McNair about drafting these combo guards, how they saw them play into the equation, we won't exactly know. I've put my theory out there on why I think they did that and why it didn't work. But you have to understand the players you're dealing with. Keon Ellis, undrafted. Kings did a fabulous job of developing him. He is an exception to the rule. But then right on his heels, and Isaac's nowhere near where Keon's at. He's got a long ways to go. IJ, he was undrafted, and the Kings have developed him. So I guess what I'm saying is what you are saying has been true. Davion Mitchell is an example, but why can't the Kings use that same development that you have seen with Keegan Murray defensively as well. Mason Jones, if you've been watching Stockton, why can't the Kings use that with Kuminga? That would be my argument. This would be the stop where he really can develop. And you have proven cases that the Kings can develop them. The ones that end up going away were just bad fits for the way the Kings were playing at the time. Davion Mitchell he came from Baylor, a program that was very structured. The Kings ran a very unstructured offense. I mean, Davion.
There's a scene in the Wolf
came
of Wall
from,
Street when they talk about throwing
Baylor,
midgets, and it's like
training.
This
is this how they
midget,
train?
Can he, can he roll there? And he go, no, he doesn't roll. You throw him. You know what I mean? And they're made for throwing. And then after a while, they start talking, and they go, well, you know what? I think if you start talking, they may think they know we're making fun of them. The midgets may think we're making fun of them. So then I'm gonna start. They may get mad at us.
Yeah, that's Baylor's head football coach. We hit that yesterday. He came from a structured environment, and now he goes to Miami. Structure, heat culture, and that's what he's made for. That the Kings were not necessarily offensively a good fit for him. Defensively, defense is defense. It can translate quicker than offense in the NBA. Same argument offensively for Keegan Murray at Iowa. Much more of a structured environment offensively. And that's why I was very happy to hear Scott Perry say, we want to get Keegan a little bit more involved. We want to push him towards the three. Because for as many of you that are down on Keegan Murray for his three-point shooting last year, I would challenge you to take a step back from that and look at all the other three-point shooters on the team. The bona fide three-point shooters from the Beam team. Kevin Huerter, awful. Keegan, not good. Malik Monk, struggled. I could go down the list. At what point is it a system problem? The Kings system is not giving three-point shooters the best looks. And sure, you can pull up a wide open three that Keegan misses, a wide open three that Kevin Huerter misses. But why don't you watch 5 minutes before that and see how many times they touched the basketball? That makes a difference. The passing was so below par last season. All those things go into it. So anyways, Dennis putting a bunch of rumors in there. I will let Dennis put whatever rumors he wants in there. I'm sorry, Dennis, man. I can't qualify him here, dude. I'll tell you what I know, but I ever since a couple of incidents, Dennis, I'm worried about your information, my man. Mark, let this thing boil. Pressure's on them. They'll come back to us and take our original offer. Okay. Interesting. Very good. All right. So I want to get back to where we started. And if you want to call the show, I'd love to get your opinion on this. We hit what happened yesterday in New York City. 4 dead, an NFL employee that was wounded in a shooting where a gunman drove all the way from Las Vegas, walked into the building, would have made it to the NFL offices most likely because he killed the security guard, an officer actually, but took the wrong elevator. The bigger conversation I want to have here, and it's a tragedy. What else? The saddest thing about this? The saddest thing about this is we are all so just numb, I guess. Like the answer so many times is, oh, another one? Oh, man. Sucks. So I don't want to take this a political route. I don't want to take this a gun safety route. None of that. I strictly want to take this a football route. I think it's interesting with football because, and I'm going to ask Jerry Reynolds a question about this today, but I think it's interesting with football and how it's evolved, how it, in some cases, has become year round for the youth. But the shooter yesterday had a note. In the note, he alleges to have CTE. He was expressing, I hate that they use this word, a grievance against the NFL, claiming he suffered CT, make sure I'm clear there, E, due to his high school football career. The note accuses the NFL of concealing the dangers of brain injuries for profit, stating, quote, "You can't go against the NFL. They'll squash you." And, quote, "The league knowingly concealed the dangers to our brains to maximize profits." He also requested that his brain be studied and said, "I'm sorry." So I'm not going to glorify the shooter. I'm not going to say his name. But what you're looking at right now is a list of confirmed NFL players to have CTE. It's a real thing. We've seen it in the wrestling world as well. In fact, Christopher Nowitzki has actually. He was a wrestler for WWE at one point. Do you realize that? He was a wrestler. He got a really bad concussion and he started basically a research facility for CTE. And he's tested many other wrestlers' brains. We know about some of the most famous cases because they were tested. Junior Seau. Anybody remember that? I remember being in San Diego and hearing that news and just being like, what? Like in shock. Junior Seau in San Diego. Who is the most beloved king that you can think of here in Sacramento? And I'm talking well beyond Chris Webber, who also had a restaurant at one point here in Sacktown. But Junior had, I believe, a couple of restaurants, one for sure in San Diego called Seau's. He was like San Diego's son. And nobody could make sense of what happened and why it happened. And now you're seeing the growing numbers of players, either past or present, that have it. The problem is it's an inherent risk when it comes to football. It is. Now, back in the day, much different, not being looked at as closely. There's one time I know I had a concussion in football. And this is 2000, it's like 1999, 2000. And I saw stars. I got up. I kind of staggered and came back on the bench. Trainer comes over, does the testing, which was not the testing that you see now. Vlade, perfect. You know what? That's a good one, Paul. Good job. Good job. Vlade had a restaurant in Old Sac too. But my coach was right there with the trainer. And so the trainer said, "Well, coach, ask him what to do on a play." And he goes, "Bo, what do you do on 226 cross down block?" He gave me the answer. I down block. Trainer doesn't know that. And that was just high school. The one thing that I can't understand, though, these days, and this is the conversation that I want to kind of get into, is now you have the Guardian caps. I think last season we saw more guys wear the Guardian caps than we had in previous seasons. But the Guardian caps are available to players in practice. And I know as the season goes on, you get less and less contact. At what point does the NFL just make it mandatory that you wear the Guardian cap in practice? It's not a choice. What's the objection to that? It doesn't look cool. It's a little bit heavier on my neck. Good. Then you're probably building some more neck muscles. That's going to make your neck stronger when you're not wearing the Guardian cap. All the objections, because the margin of difference for an NFL player making a roster and being cut from a roster can be a quarter of a second. And that thing's big. It's heavy. It's bulky. You know what else is really interesting? You all see this. You've seen it for a long time, and it has improved a little bit. We're not all the way back in the Morton Anderson days where the guy basically has no shoulder pads on, no leg pads on, and he's got one bar going around his helmet. We're not there, but we're still kind of there. Do you notice how little sometimes these players wear pads? If you ask an NFL player, would you rather be hit in the head or the knee? They would take the head every day of the week. So at what point do you start instituting some things that are mandatory? Your pads depend usually on the position you are playing. If you've played college sports, if you have played professional sports, there's a little more, you as a player have a little more discretion about what you put on and what you don't put on. So I'm not saying that I want to see the NFL come out and put each team on each side of the 50-yard line and do equipment checks. But what I am saying is I think there's some things within the game that the players can do to keep themselves just a tad bit more safer. Because one thing we can all agree on is the NFL is getting bigger, faster, stronger every single year. And you're at a point where you're neutering a defender's ability to make a play. You don't know anymore what's a hit to the head. It's a defender. The target is small of where you can and can't hit and what you can hit it with. And by the way, the target's moving faster than probably anybody that we've seen run that we're playing on a football field with. It's a big ask. We're talking about split-second decisions. And you're seeing players retire now earlier and earlier and earlier. DJ talks about watching Tua. I was hoping he'd retire. Could not watch him get a concussion after yet. You know, and that's what we're seeing more of. And I'm not here to say take hits out of football. I love that is football, right? It's exactly what football is. It's today's modern Roman Coliseum. It's what it is. By far the most popular sport domestically. I want it to stay around. I don't want it to turn into flags. But I do think maybe it needs to be rethought at a youth level. That's where it starts. Have you ever heard of Mighty Mites? These are Mighty Mites. These kids are like kindergartners. I went to a Mighty Mite game one time because a friend's son was playing. The kid could barely hold his head up with the helmet on. Now, the kids are not hitting with the same force that the pros or high school players or junior hires play with. But these kids have a very, very, very minimal knowledge of proper techniques for hitting and tackling, what's dangerous, what's not dangerous, don't put your head down, etc. So we're starting kids in tackle football earlier, and earlier. You see the push. Peter's putting it in right now. If you've seen, yeah, no, you know what, fans, I'm with you. I'm with you. You go back and watch some Jack Tatum highlights. It's brutal. Ryan Clark, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, flag football coming to the NFL or to the Olympics. The NFL is really pushing flag football right now. If you haven't noticed, ESPN has been televising some flag football that's ran through the NFL. So anyways, I wonder if this is where it kind of starts. Do you have to take the tackle out of football until kids are old enough to manage their bodies and understand the game at a level? And I'm a kid that started in 4th grade playing football, saying it. The objection right now is, well, if my kid who wants to play football, if I don't start him until junior high, they're already 4 or 5 years behind. They've been playing for 4 or 5 years with the same kids and got, some chemistry. They're not going to know how to do this. They're not going to know how to do that. They're behind the 8 ball. But you're also at the same time putting them at a risk. This gunman, and we don't know if he had CTE or not. We have no idea. But he's talking about high school football. I think that is, and this is going to be a take that's unsavory to some, looking at the way this is going. And in some ways, I think you are more protected pad-wise in high school football than you actually are in the pros, because the pros have more discretion. Bigger, stronger, faster, least amount of weight on my body. Leg pads, forget about them. Even on running backs sometimes. I think high school is where tackle football should start. It's trending that way. If you want to have the NFL and you want football to stay around for the long haul, because this entire list of players that we were looking at, this entire list, when this generation is done playing in the NFL, what do you say? Do you think it's going to triple? Quadruple? It's going to bring more parents to say, oh, I don't want my kids playing tackle football quite yet. And then you're going to have other parents, I don't care. We know the risks, which is fair too. But does your kid know the risks? Does your kid really understand the lifelong risks? I could tell you at 4 years old or at 4th grade, I didn't understand the lifelong risks. There was 2 things I wanted: an Elk Grove Junior Herd jersey with my last name on it and a pair of Newman gloves. That's what I wanted. So if you want football long-term and you want to take as much of the ugliness out of it, like this, I think it's got to be flag. I think it's got to be teaching fundamentals up until junior high. or excuse me, up until high school. High school is when everybody can start playing tackle football. And you know what? I would also probably put a written test together. I'm serious. Put a test together that you need to pass as a 13-year-old about the fundamentals of the game. You got to pass to be able to play. Because football is not sustainable anymore. It will, as we know and enjoy football, understand what I'm trying to say here. I'm not saying some form of football won't exist, but I'm saying football as we know right now, with its flaws and all the defender rules, and is it roughing the quarterback, etc. Football as we know right now will go extinct. They're going to keep, instead of putting it out and saying, no, it's too dangerous, they're just going to keep pulling things out of the game. Look at the kickoff rule now as an example. If I'm way off, tell me. Come in, say you're being an idiot. It's my decision. I can tell you confidently, I would not, if my son came to me and said, I want to play football, I'd have no problem with it if he wants to start in high school. But I think that is how you have to even the playing field, because you'll never be able to even the playing field because there's always going to be a part of the parent base that's going to say, we don't care. So make kids, and you can still have kids training if you want all year long. You can still do 7-on-7 tournaments. All that can be done. Offensive, from every position, literally every position. Even just practicing tackling, you can do that without pads on. You can do that without hitting somebody else. Offensive line, you can teach the fundamentals of blocking. You can put live bodies in front of live bodies. Take the impact and the trauma to the head out of it until bodies are developed at least enough to where you're not worried about breaking growth plates in your body. So what are your thoughts? I know that's kind of a different, controversial take. You know, in football, they've done a lot to manage pain, but they have really failed in that aspect. They especially failed anybody that played in the early 2000s, the 90s, the 80s. The NFL greatly failed them. The NFL set them on a course for just addiction to where you couldn't play the game unless you had something. Tristan, think it has to be written, but also in person person role play competent, like a driving test. See what you're saying. Paul, prior to high school. So are you in favor of it prior to high school, Paul? I see Vincent Jackson on that list. He died of alcoholism. Well, Peter, he may have died of alcoholism, but he also had CTE. His brain was tested. So at what point does the CTE, at what point, I don't think it's a big jump to have a discussion about whether the symptoms he was experiencing possibly from CTE, which can be really ugly, had anything to do with his alcoholism. The Tua stuff, that is the one that just turns my stomach. And I know somebody put that in there already, but I can't, I'm speaking for me, I cannot watch Tua play. I'm way too far on edge that he's going to take that hit. I don't need to see another hit with his fingers frozen at a 45-degree angle. I don't want to see that. You know, and here's the other thing. These guys are mostly playing on field turf, which there's a lot of questions around the field turf, not about the softness, but about the granule rubber that's part of those fields. There's been some links to cancer in women's soccer players with that. So that's not great either. But think about the fields that some of the other guys before them, as some of you have said, the people that played in the 80s, people that played in the 90s, 70s. It was, if you were playing in an indoor dome, it was concrete and carpet. That's what it was. Imagine smacking the back of your head on that. And football parent that's like, hey, I'm signing my kid up for Mighty Mites. I'm not judging you whatsoever. That is your choice. I'm talking about if this game's going to be sustainable and be anything like we watch today, it's going to have to start at an earlier age. The fundamentals without pads. That's all I'm saying. I'm all for football. I love football. Football and basketball were my two major sports. But, you know, it's the chase to get the scholarship, right? It's no longer the 529 plan. It's the we're going to get him a scholarship plan or her a scholarship plan. They see the kids as lottery tickets to the NFL. Fortunately, some parents do. Two parents are pushy with encouraging their kids, even though they might not even like the sport. Yeah, see, and I was pushy to my parents to let me get on the field. I was pushing to play a year before that, and they wouldn't let me. In high school, there's parents, college, and NFL. You're on your own. Yes and no, Paul. Yes and no. Trust me, those players are investments. They're using state-of-the-art trackers to see how fast guys are going. They're tracking exactly what is the right amount of practice specific to one player's body to get his peak performance on Sunday. Like there's all this stuff that they're doing, but yet it's less and less pads. Seriously, when guys roll out for preseason, check out the pads. See if everybody's wearing leg pads. See what that looks like. Now, you'll see some form of a leg pad, but it's in the spandex and it's very thin under their game pants. Peter almost was suspended from elementary school for playing tackle football. I was just there, never acknowledged anybody. Recess person got it wrong. Luckily, the principal's kid was in our group. No suspension. Damn, they were going to suspend you for playing tackle football. Tristan's with me. And here's the other thing again. Why not make the guys wear the Guardian caps? If you're worried that it's going to make you a step slower, well, guess what? It's going to make your opponent a step slower. Or they're a step stronger than you. And it wouldn't have mattered anyways. Make them wear the Guardian caps in practice. Can the NFL do that? Probably not under the current agreement with the players. But what's the harm to that? Even if it's just preseason. Even if it's just preseason, make them wear them in preseason because that is when they are going to get more live attempts in live reps. You know, teams now, the preseason games now are secondary to the team scrimmages. The real work goes on in the scrimmages. The games in the preseason are just where a lot of the other guys that don't play in the scrimmage get to play. and hopefully make a name for themselves. We've got Jerry Reynolds coming up here in just a few minutes. So start getting your questions in for Jerry. We're going to switch gears. We're going to talk Kings basketball. We'll answer, or we'll hit some of the questions some of you have been asking, specifically about who the Kings should give up. Is it win now? What's that look like? So yeah, if you have anything for Jerry, put it in the chat. We will get to that here in just a few minutes. As I said earlier, Grant be back at 8:00 tonight. Make sure you join him for that show. Be taking your calls, answering your questions. I'm sure he'll have a different or unique perspective on some of this, because Grant's first memories were watching pro football with his dad. So he's seen the game change dramatically over time. But join him 8:00 tonight. Sorry it was a little bit late yesterday if you were a part of that show. We were just getting them all set up. So our bad. So what does everybody think about Jerry coming on? What's the best question going to be? Tristan, stay away from wrestling, please. No wrestling. It's funny to me how many times how changed? Huh? Interesting. So funny, when I was a kid in the 80s, we played tackle football on the streets. There's some truth to that. Paul was referring to parents that are still in the decision-making process. Yeah, I mean, again, my son, I would not let him play till high school. I just wouldn't. And I'm sure I would be judged because I'm setting him back, right? I'm setting him up for more injury. I can promise you this, though. I've not been to a high school football practice in the last, I don't know, since I practiced. Yeah, since I practiced, I have not been at a high school practice. But I can't imagine they're doing what we used to do, especially before the season started and especially during tryouts. If you played in the 90s and you played in the early 2000s, you knew there was an hour of hitting drills before practice really got going, where you are basically knocking the crap out of somebody that's running on a straight line with the basketball or with the football. You're basically, one person is delivering the hit and the other is trying to either deliver a bigger hit. I mean, it got nasty, and that was before high school. So I can't imagine they're doing those drills anymore. Sorry, I got this thing about going back to high school. I have a brother that's 11 years younger than me, so since he played sports, I did go back. And the first time I went back, and I knew it was going to happen, because there's always a handful of those kids, those Uncle Ricos. I knew I was going to run into somebody that I played with. And I'm like trying to keep my head down. And I hear, Bo. Sure enough, right there, I'm not going to say his name, number 54, backup lineman on our team. Mind you, I've been out of high school for like 8 years. It is a Thursday night freshman football game. He's wearing his Letterman jacket and his championship ring. That's why I just avoided high school after the fact. Never wanted to be that guy. Ever. Speaking of that guy in a positive way, it's our favorite day of the week. You know what it is? It is time. Get your questions in. You better get your questions in right now for Jerry Reynolds Tuesday. Hit it.
It's Jerry Reynolds Tuesday, let the good times roll. King's legend in the house, he's got the game on the scroll. With endless coaching wisdom and stories to share. When he talks shit, birds, and Kings basketball, you better be there. Jerry Reynolds Tuesday's the place to be. Basketball magic, it's a sight to see. Chicken and dumplings on his plate. With a side of laughter, it's a perfect fate.
Every time. It's the strings at the end of it, right, Jerry? Where you just want to get up and start moving.
Yeah, it's a real nice touch. It kind of gets me going, that's for sure. And Mrs. Reynolds even likes it, so that's really
That's
yeah.
high praise, Jerry.
Yeah. Well, she thought it was kind of cute. Said it fits me, kind of country and all that. And I said, well, I ain't gonna apologize for that.
Amen. Love where you're from. It's who you are to your core. Where you're from develops who you are.
That's a good point there. So hey,
Just saying.
Just be the best of where you. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, see, I'm getting choked up now. This might finish me off thinking about the old days of growing up in French Lick.
You ain't going nowhere, buddy.
Actually, I didn't grow up in French Lick, so that's not fair. I always it's misleading because I was from near a little town about 4 miles west of French Lick, Hillham. Is a suburb of French Lick, had about 50 people. And so it was a suburban area. And I always told Bird that was the thing. He's from French Lick. I said, you might be the best player from French Lick, but I damn sure is the best one to ever come out of Hillham. I know that.
So if it's like 50 people, do you know everybody?
Well, I was just a kid. We moved from there when I was in the 3rd grade and closer to town.
Okay.
So yeah, I think I pretty much did. It was a grocery store and a filling station, and that was, that was it. Yeah.
Now beautiful next to French Lick. Beautiful now with all the golf resorts and the commercials. Come play golf here on our 3 championship courses.
Yeah, well, it was always a wonderful resort. It truthfully, I mean, it was, probably one of the best, if not the best, in the Midwest for years. And it's, but they put a lot of money in it, with the casino, like everything, casino now, and it's one of the few areas in Indiana that you can gamble. So that makes it attractive in addition to the golf and the luxury hotels and all that stuff.
Definitely. Well, thanks for joining us, as you usually do on Tuesdays. I want to start off with a question that's not basketball related. I want to ask you to go back in time, and your son comes up to you, knowing what you know right now about football and CTE and its effects. Let's say your son comes up to you and says, I want to play football at 10 years old. What would your response be?
Well, I'd probably try to discourage him if he's good at other sports. I mean, to be honest with you, but if it's his love and that's his best sport, I think it'd be probably pretty tough. I think it's where a parent sometimes gets in trouble if you try to keep a child from doing something they love and they're good at.
Yeah,
it probably isn't going to end very well. I mean, I understand the dangers of it. And like I say, I'd much prefer that if he was a really good athlete, that he'd choose baseball or basketball, or probably if he was really good, he should play golf. That's probably if he's good enough at that sport. So yeah, I think there's better ways to go. I mean, that's the thing with football. I mean, there's almost no way you're not going to get your body hurt at some point. Pretty seriously, and that in that sport, it's a collision sport. It's what it is.
Yeah, and you can't take the collision out of it because that's what makes the sport. And we've seen it year after year. Rules trying to make it different. The kickoff rule. How does a defender even defend these days, Jerry?
Yeah. Obviously, offense has all the advantage, and I kind of probably think it's went a little too far. I mean, you got to give the defense a chance, and I mean, I do like how they've, protected players a little bit. That's for sure. But it's basically a quarterback receiver game offensively now. The running backs starting to come back a little, and I miss that. I really like the running game, and just kind of grew up that way. And of course, the running backs, I mean, their bodies if you get 3 or 4 years, that's about top flight anymore. 3 or 4 years before they get banged up. Sadly, about the time they get to the point where they're ready for a big contract, they're usually banged up and damaged goods.
Yeah, remember just 4 or 5 years ago, guys were not being re-signed, and now Saquon and a few others have kind of changed that. So I'm happy for that position.
Oh, me too. Yeah. You're hoping that that certainly they can last longer and get significant contracts. They certainly deserve it. That's for sure.
Indeed. All right, let's get to some questions from the chat, and then we'll start talking about the Kings. Tristan's going to kick us off, Jerry, and it looks like a better than most question for Tristan. Which team do you think had the best offseason this year, and which team are you scratching your head at?
Well, Tristan comes up with some great ones. That's kind of one of the highlights, by the way. Week is just wondering what Tristan's going to come up with.
It's true.
Well, I think Denver's had as good a offseason as anybody. I mean, I think getting Valanciunas and Brown, and then the trade Porter for Cam Johnson, I really think they're better, and they really probably played Oklahoma City as well as any team, and so they're a definite threat again if they stay healthy, but they're a little deeper than they were, and I think they improved themselves bench wise. They improved themselves with their starting lineup as well. But Valanciunas and Brown, that gives them better guys coming off the bench than they had. And then, of course, I think Cam Johnson is better than Porter. So, and Porter's a good player, but I think he'll fit better and really benefit from Jokic. So, yeah, I like what Denver's done. And, we'll see really pulling for David Adelman, and see how that goes on a full-time basis. But so I like that. And, scratching my head, with certainly with Phoenix, I don't know, they're obviously, this looks like tearing it down, but boy, it's a pretty expensive process. You give up Durant, basically, you buy out Bradley Beal, two of the so-called big three that didn't work, and you're paying a lot of money, and for the most part, just to have them go away.
Yeah.
and so that's I'd say, and then honestly, I'm still a little confused about our Kings. I'm just not sure. Utah certainly has not, I don't think, helped themselves any, but I don't think they care yet. I think they're probably Ainge is probably thinking one more year, and then they'll try to put stuff together, I would think. But as far as the Kings, yeah, it's you lose LaRavia and Valanciunas. That's two pretty good players. Now, I love the draft, but you still don't know, exactly going forward because they haven't done it. I do think Nick Clifford looks like he's ready to play if you can get him on the floor, and Isaac Jones, proved that he belongs in the league. Now, just how much he gets to play, but I overall, I mean, Schroeder, good player. But I'm not sure how much better they've gotten, and they've gotten older. So that bothers me.
Yeah. You always talk about guys or trying to get guys that are more on the way up than on the way down, where you can kind of still develop them and then you really get their primes. Do you see Jonathan Kuminga as a possibility to be one of those players for the Kings?
Yeah, I do. I mean, his upside, he should have all of his best years ahead. Now, just how good they're going to be, I don't think we can know. The way it played out and has played out in Golden State, it doesn't look like he's a very good fit there. I mean, I think he'd be a guy that I'd like to see the Kings get because he's a big, a nice, lively, fairly long athletic wing, which they don't have enough of, and they have too many guards.
Yeah.
So that would be good, and I think he has the potential. I think he could be a 20-point scorer. Now, would he would that make you better? I mean, it depends on who you're trading. I mean, honestly, I guess you ask my opinion there, if you could trade DeMar DeRozan for him, I think it makes sense because then you get a little bigger and younger at the small forward position. And I'm not saying you get better.
Yeah.
He might not be better next year, but certainly, with DeMar as good as he is, he's got to be, moving on the on the last quarter. There's that, and so if you could do that, but now in my mind, if it's Monk and Keon Ellis, guys like that, I don't like the sound of that much.
Yeah, and that's where I want to go. That's exactly where I want to go because I think the Kings right now, if you look at what Scott Perry has said, it's going to be a process, right? I think the bar's been set kind of low. The roster kind of looks, well, not kind of, it is unbalanced. I think a few moves that they were hoping for did not work out, and now they're kind of in a spot. But if you ultimately want to be a defensive team, when I look at the team right now, Jerry, you can't be a defensive team because you don't have Jake LaRavia anymore. Now, can Neek step in and play defense? We're not sure. We'll see how that translates. I think that Max is going to have some issues with his size defending as well. So since for the next couple of years, you've got to batten down the hatches and write out this Levine contract, possibly write out the DeMar contract. But I think as we go along, there's going to be a bigger market for DeMar, maybe at a deadline if a team loses a guy, but they feel like they can contend. So with all that said, I guess my tolerance for giving up a Keon Ellis, I understand what we're giving up. But is he going to be a part of the plan ultimately 3 years down the road? Because I see it as a 3-year thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it can't be any more than that. And I guess the question I'd have is, if you're really, kind of working that way, then how does Schroeder or Doug McDermott? How does that work?
Well, I think it's the Band-Aids to kind of batten down the hatches. You're not committing to, well, Schroeder's a significant commitment, but then you don't have that third year fully guaranteed. I think they're looking to get through.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think the problem becomes, how sure are you that in 2 years you get the point guard you need?
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that that's going to happen then either. And you're right. I definitely agree with you on this. I think the DeRozan and Levine contracts become more tradable because as they get closer to the end,
right.
And they're talented guys. And so championship contenders that are looking for guys for a plug-in guy that can do so. I think both those guys, probably not now, but maybe even trade deadline or certainly next summer. So I think there's value there, and you can, but I haven't said that. I think this team, wherever it goes, it really needs to be in a position to redo itself pretty much next summer. I mean, you can't try to, because if you're going to get younger, you got to get younger at some point. And then the younger you get, then all of a sudden you're 2 years away from being 2 years away. And I don't think the talent or the fan base, the ones that actually pay the freight, are gonna settle for that. I mean, I know as for someone like myself, for you, that say, okay, yeah, I can be patient, and I just want to see them do the right things, but I'm not paying $10,000 for tickets either.
Well, how much does that depend on the style in which the team's playing? Because this city has supported losing teams that play hard night in and night out.
Yeah, well, and I think to your point, and I think that to a degree may have run out a little bit. I think that due to the success of the Beam team, that was so thrilling that just we're all like saying, well, where'd that go?
Yeah.
And now we're not young and exciting and flashy and on the way up. We're fairly old and not viewed as one of the, top 10, 11 teams in the West right now by prognosticators and gamblers and such. So that's having said all that, you're right. I think most, if they'll go out, and I think they will. I think Doug Christie's going to get them to play hard, and I think if the young guys, especially Neek, can show he's ready to play, we can tolerate a lot. But I do think they got to commit to an exciting style, basically of really playing up tempo and more pressure defense, picking up, and kind of, to me, kind of like what we saw the Pacers, how they played. I think that style, even if you're not a real competitive team, would make up for a lot of it. But if you're losing and you're not fun to watch, that's the death nail right there.
Yeah, you're spot on. And the challenge that the Kings have, to your point about the Pacers, is the depth. The Pacers were probably the second deepest team in the league, next to the champions who beat them in 7.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not hard to spot why some teams are really good. They have to have major stars, a couple, 2 or 3, and then they have to have a lot of depth of guys, and both those teams, just you couldn't run a team any better or build a team any better than what they did, and that's what we're hoping for here, and like you say, you got some kind of bridge players, and you just hope that they don't get in the way of really going out and getting the pieces you need and developing the pieces you need.
Yeah. Everybody talks, and I have given Sam Presti, as the kids say, his flowers for what he's done in Oklahoma City. But the Pacers, I think, are a closer second to what they've done, because, Jerry, they haven't been in the tax for the last 12 seasons.
Oh, they've done a marvelous. And, you can go back 20 years and they've been, people forget they've been in the NBA finals before. Right. And they had the best team in the league probably one year when they had key guys injured when the Pistons won, when they were clearly better than the Pistons. But they've just done it right over the years. And I point to the front office stuff, whether it's been Donnie Walsh, outstanding, Larry Bird, which he was great, and then now Kevin Pritchard, and they got an owner that just pretty much Mr. Simon, that's got a lot of money, but really stays out of the way, and he doesn't want to get into the apron either. And they've made moves. Seems like they move guys at the right time, and certainly, I always said that it's one of those things where past year's team, they had 3 top guys in the lottery from that one draft, and they didn't draft any of them. Naismith and Toppin and Halliburton.
Right. That's so true.
So they got 3 lottery picks, and they didn't draft any of them. So
who's that Larry Bird guy that you mentioned? Sounds faintly familiar.
Yeah, well, he's had a real impact there. I know Larry really was the guy that hired Pritchett, and of course, Kevin really did a great job in Portland. People might remember they had some outstanding teams there when the Kings were good. So they like I say, they've just done a lot of good. I guess if I was going to summarize it, to me, they're one of the few franchises that has always used basketball men to run the basketball operations. Strange concept. Yeah, I know.
Well said. So obvious too. Well said, but so obvious. And it works. Chad asks, if you were a coach today, what type of system would you run? Offense and defense? Well, I guess you got to do both, Chad, to win a game usually. But Jerry, you going offense or defense?
Well, I think you have to come up, I think, with a style you think you can be successful on both ends. And I always say, if you want to start on the offense end, figure out who your best players are, and that means 2 or 3 guys. I mean, and that's always the way. Build an offense that fits those, say, 3 guys, your best 3 guys. Utilize them correctly, then everybody else can fit in. They've got to find a lane and a role. And then, not that you don't want to help them, and that goes for your bench as well. At some point, you probably want to get 9 or 10 guys that you feel like you can play on a nightly basis. But by the time you get to the playoffs, you might just play 8. It changes, and so you and your top guys play a little more. So anyway, build your offense, find out what fits your best guys, and then defensively the same thing. Of who you're going to start. What kind of defense do you think could work? Now, having said that, you might say, well, we would like to play faster, offensively. So that means we got to pick up the pace. So that means more pressure, in my opinion. I certainly would try to always press after made free throws, made baskets.
Yes.
And I'd really use the zone more, drop into zones. It's so much easier to press after made baskets, free throws, and then you got a chance to stretch it out, make the clock help you on your defense, and then fall into a zone. And then, of course, say on missed shots or whatever, your man pick up, and that gives you a different look. It's a little bit. And then, of course, after timeouts and stuff like that, then you might, do a little trickeration, come up with different things. But I've always said, I think, that's one of the great things I thought that Phil Jackson did. The triple post offense, we've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it was a way of getting spacing and making sure that Michael and Scottie Pippen had control of the game. And that when necessary, you knew the spacings to where Michael knew that the guys wouldn't be in his way. That was really about it late in games. And so then defensively, now they didn't press a lot because they were long and extremely athletic, and they could take you out. They just played a half court, pick you up, get in your grill, and then turn you over.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, because with Michael and Scotty, he didn't want to wear them out pressing, and they didn't really have a great bench. So it's a utilized, and I always say, the only thing a coach can do, and it's a great, is whatever talent you have, utilize it correctly. Doesn't mean you can win because it may not be good enough. I always said Pat Riley had several 20-win seasons, and Greg Popovich had a whole bunch of them. Well, they didn't get dumber those years. They just didn't have the talent.
They didn't have the talent.
And so you're in the NBA, it's a talent league. So, but utilize the talent you have as best you can and motivate them. That's it. In other words, and it shows up over an 82 game schedule that the better coaches, will, even if good team or bad team, they're going to play harder, more consistently. You're going to have a clunker out of 82, several, 2 or 3, 4.
Yeah.
But I always say let's say a Thibodeau. That's one thing I always admired his teams. I mean, out of the 82, they're going to play really hard, probably 78 times. You're going to catch about 4 games where they just haven't got it. And then you take a bad team, that maybe didn't coach as well, or the players haven't been motivated as well, and you may see about 15 clunkers.
So true. It's such a long season. I'll ask you this, and then we'll get to some more questions from the crowd. You said trickerations out of timeouts, and all I thought about was turnovers out of timeouts last year for the Kings. If the passing just improves 50%, the IQ picks up 75%, how many more wins is that going to credit into the column for the Kings this year?
Yeah, well, it's such a fine line. I always say that, generally speaking, a 50-win team wins by about 7 points a game, and a 25-win team loses about 4 or 5 points a game. So wow. It's really that's 11 points. Well, but then again, the difference between a 25-win team and a 40-win team is about 2 points. So to your point, or a 40 win to a 50 now all of a sudden gets to be 3 or 4 points is what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so, create more turnovers and eliminating turnovers. I always say, to me, defensive rebounding and taking care of the ball are such keys because you can't, defense doesn't stop until you get the ball back.
Right.
you know, you can, how many times you see it where a team is really busting their hump and team takes a bad shot and they can't get it back. Well, a lot of times that's nobody's fault. I mean, it's just a
Long threes.
long three and it balls where, so you can't really, there's nobody to box out. But the point is, once your defensive rebound, now you're on offense. Until then, you're on defense. So defensive rebounding and taking care of the ball, because that gives you extra possessions and takes away possessions. Every possession generally is worth about 1.3 points, let's say. So if you're turning them over 3 extra times, well, that's that's almost 4 points, and it's also giving you an extra possession. So that's, I always say that I like to look at the assist to turnover ratios every game, because if a team has got a 2-to-1 ratio and they're shooting the ball reasonably well, they're probably in the game, have a chance to win.
I hope everybody's taking notes right now. That is basketball brilliance. It's why the Pacers were able to stay in game 1 and even in that series till the tail end, because even though the Thunder were getting turnovers, they weren't converting those
They
turnovers.
weren't converting enough, yeah. And I mean, that there again, now there's credit to Rick Carlisle and his guys. I mean, they turn over, but their transition defense was brilliant.
Yes.
Now, it's also true, I thought the Thunder the same thing. I mean, where we've seen teams in Sacramento where they turn it over and it's like, well, have a layup, fellas. We'll get you later. Or in other teams, but I do think that's another part of it. Kind of one of the unspoken things is make sure everybody plays every minute. You know, in other words, don't be bitching about a call while the ball's going the other way.
Yep.
You know, stay in the. I always say, all you have to realize is stay in the play till the ball's dead. If the ball's dead, you can't be dead. You've got to be alive. So you know, and that, and you know, the Kings overall, I think, have been pretty good at that, very good at that. But I mean, I think the Pacers in particular were just brilliant.
I mean, true or false, the transition game was the most exciting thing about the Kings this last season.
Yeah, I mean, they're much better. About every team is better in transition because you're not playing against a set defense. But I do think the Kings have a lot of talent in the open court. They can be very scary and efficient. I think the trick for them is to get better in the half court.
Amen.
No, they were so good in the half court in the Beam Team years. They were terrific in the open court. And they played at a pace that nobody else was playing at. So that was all great, but they were still good in the half court. But I think I felt like the last couple of years, neither area was as good. We just didn't see the pace of play for some reason. And I think after the trade, we definitely did. You know, I mean, with no Fox, the point guard thing wasn't there, and so it was. Kings became a half court team, and they really weren't that good at it.
Is it time for us and the fans to close the door on the Beam Team? Like, can't be revived. You need to start fresh and come up with something new.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's totally different guys, with the exception of 1 or 2 guys. The coaching staff is different. The general manager is different. So there's no, not to say you can't hit the beam if you want to. They still have it, but the Beam Team is gone. That's kind of like trying to relive the 2001 Kings. They're not walking through that door. So it's I think you make a great point. I really do think that it would be great from a marketing and team standpoint to say, look, this is the 2025-26 Sacramento Kings. Period.
With you, Jerry. Paul is wondering, when you get your guys' questions and gals' questions in, what's your favorite sport to watch these days?
I love watching golf when it's major tournaments. I'm starting to watch a little baseball, but I really haven't got back to that. But and of course, looking forward to football. I love watching college and NFL. But yeah, I think I don't know what it is, but I just really admire golf, the LPGA, PGA Champions Tour, if it's a big tournament, and the big names are in there because they're so classy. Yeah. It's out there. They're on their own. They can't blame anybody. and they don't generally, and they, they're playing against the course. They're not really. I mean, it's one of those things.
Right.
They know they got to beat a certain, but they can't. They got to play the course, and So I really enjoy that. And in fact, too, the TV coverage has gotten so great.
Oh wow.
Where you can follow the ball, and they go from shot to shot. So there's always. When I was growing up, you really couldn't follow the ball. It was kind of like watching hockey, where you couldn't see the puck on TV, and so you just it's hard to. They didn't have anywhere near the cameras and the all the drones and everything like they do now. So they've done a marvelous job with that.
Yeah, it's not the way they do it isn't exactly like the NHL with the red puck lines going across the ice. It's done in a really professional way.
I do think with hockey, it's such an exciting sport. If for me, I'd love it if I could see the puck. And I didn't like it when they had the kind of the whole red streak kind of thing, but I do wish they would illuminate the puck.
Yeah.
So
just without the streak. Yeah.
Yeah. Just so you can see this. So old fools like me can see the puck.
No, it's not old fools like you. Same thing with me. I'm trying to find, I was picking Grant's brain about it because, he loves hockey. He's called it. You've got to know the game. You almost have to be thinking a play ahead and anticipating where the puck is going to be at. Cause those guys are just the hand-eye coordination just blows your mind.
Amazing. And the speed, of course, they can't stay on the ice forever, but they're very long. But man, the talent and the skill. No, it's a great sport. I've gotten so too. I'll tell you, a sport I've really gotten to enjoy is college softball.
Oh, interesting.
It's a great game. I mean, the women play at a high level. I think almost play at a higher level than the women's basketball. And they get great crowds because it's fun to watch. That's always the key. Volleyball is much the same way. I've never been quite as into volleyball, but I think with softball, it's a great sport. I'm convinced they can make a professional sport out of it. I mean, I know they're professional, but they really need to get some billionaire involved, and if they've got the traveling kind of teams, but they need to put them in cities, to where. Sure. You got the Des Moines, Iowa team and Omaha, and places where women's softball is extremely popular and they draw. And I think it would probably, certainly do as well as the WNBA, I think, if they did it right.
Well, that is interesting. There's more than enough facilities between the minor league ballparks, places to play. You brought up two sports. Hockey and golf. Did you watch Happy Gilmore too?
No, I haven't. My son and I are planning to do that. Of course, I'm a big fan of Adam Sandler. I got to meet him once.
Oh, really? When did you get to meet him?
Well, they were doing a shoot at a Laker game.
Oh, okay.
And so he was there, and they wanted. I think Grant and I were in the background while he was on the other end of the floor or something like that. But the producer at that time was a good friend of Paul Westfall's, and so they came over and visited. So it was
that's cool.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. And he's just such a normal, neat guy. No airs, just kind of the kind of guy you probably like to have as your neighbor. Of course, if you had him as your neighbor, you'd be rich, so that'd be good. That'd make it extra good.
You might rethink that after you watch Happy Gilmore too. Just saying.
Okay.
No, kidding. Let's see as we get to some more questions. Peter's asking, because we were talking about football and the hitting. What's some of the worst basketball injury you've seen? I guess in person or on TV. Jalen Wells was pretty ugly for me, Jerry.
Yeah, that one. I mean, of course, Achilles injuries generally don't look as bad as they are. Almost invariably they're non-contact injuries. Some of the, where guys get their ankles just torn, and their feet backwards land on somebody. So
Yeah.
those look so bad, and they are bad because
Yeah.
they're serious things. I mean, certainly haven't seen anything. I think the Paul George injury, I think one of his World Games or something where he broke his leg, and
In Vegas, yeah.
yeah, and you really saw the break. You know, it wasn't quite a Joe Theismann kind of moment, but yeah, there's sadly, I've been I was at the game where gosh, from Loyola Marymount died on the floor. Gosh, name escapes me now.
Hmm.
Gosh, what was his name?
Let me give you some help out.
Yeah.
While we get your help, Karen asked, "Do you think the Kings would be better with a young Mike Bibby?"
Well, a young Mike Bibby would be terrific.
Yes, of course they would be.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I'd almost prefer a young Jay Will just because he'd be so exciting.
Yeah, that's right.
So that neither guy would probably make his team a 50+ win team, but I honestly think they'd both make it a lot better. And then Jay Will, there's no more exciting point guard, I don't know, certainly in Kings history and maybe even in the league's history, really.
Yep, I'm with you.
Things he could do with the balls, there's nobody in the league can do what he could do now.
He kind of made the point guard position sexy. He made it cool.
He did. I mean, he was must-see TV there for the years he was with the Kings, and I mean, yeah, he's had his issues off the floor, but I always say that Jay Will's probably the only guy that at that stage in my career that I couldn't wait for practice, to watch, because I always say it always reminded me when I was younger and I worked a little bit, helped out with the Atlanta Hawks, and when Pete Maravich was there, and when I was a college coach, and because in those days they just had one assistant, so in veteran camps and stuff like that, Cotton Fitzsimmons would always have me come over and help out and give me a little money, and which I appreciated, but always just enjoyed. But Maravich was so special, and I mean, it's one of those things I can practice. He'd always do stuff you'd say, hey, that's not possible. Did I see what I think I saw? Know. And Jay Will's the same way, except he could do it even faster. And then he'd practice that stuff. I always say that. I was thinking about Jay Will. I always loved watching after practice. He'd go over there and be throwing behind the back pass off walls, see how they'd off his elbows and stuff.
The angles matter.
Yeah,
the angles matter.
He didn't get that kind of skill by not working at it.
Yep, very true. Hank Gathers, the player
Hank
passed away on the court.
It was sad. It was at Pepperdine, in fact, at the conference tournament. And, and so that was bad stuff.
Yeah. I've shared. I had a player pass away on the court.
Did you really?
It was an open gym. Anytime the team came over and played at the rec center, usually a little bit of a crowd would come around. There'd be a bigger line for guys to get on the court with their five. And it was finally this kid's time, and he was laying down under the hoop, and we're like, that's weird, and so we stopped the game, ran over, and he had a cardiac incident. It is somebody at that age seeing somebody you love doing the same thing passing away. It was a lot to wrap your arms around.
Yeah, boy, I'll say. Yeah, I mean, that's something you don't get over. I mean, especially if it's someone you know personally, especially. And I always said the Ricky Berry suicide, it just leaves a hole in your heart, I mean, you just, because you don't know how in the world it happened or why it happened and what you could have done, and just bad stuff.
Yep, with you. All right, let's go turbo round. Jerry, how many minutes do you think Neek is going to play this year?
I'm hoping he gets about 20 minutes a game. I think I think he's just one of those guys. Looks like to me a young talent that find a way to get him on the floor. Find a way to get him on the floor every half.
Mm-hmm.
That was my kind of complaint about Davion Mitchell. Not that he was. I think Neek's got more talent, but I mean, I just thought the minutes were so inconsistent. a guy that's a hard-nosed defender and scrapper. They need to know they're going to be on the floor for a while.
They do indeed.
I mean, you got there 3 or 4 minutes, you miss a shot, and you're out. I mean, that's no way. That's no way to develop. I mean, you got to show them some confidence. I always remember with with Kenny Smith when he was a rookie and I coached him, and and I'd always tell him, I said, you're gonna play 30 minutes because we don't have anybody else. But and if you play good, I may play you 35 or 38. He said, great. He said, I should play 48 because he wanted to play every minute. But
yeah.
But I mean, he knew even if he stuck it up, he could go for 15 and he's still going to play 30. I just told him, I said, no, you're a guy that we got, you got a chance to be a really top player, and we don't have very many that we can develop. So, and so that, but I think with Neek, get him on the floor and let him know that you're going to play 20 minutes every game. And if you're really good, sometimes you'll play more, but you're not going to play less.
I think that is exactly why we saw Davion Mitchell play as well as he did down that stretch that last year with the Kings when he played that last second half of the season. He looked sharp. He looked better because, Jerry, it makes such a big difference when you have a little bit of wiggle room to make a mistake.
Yeah, and I think, too, guys like him, and I think Neek's a lot like that, they're kind of dogs. I mean, part of why they're good is they really compete every minute and play every play. Well, it takes a while for them to show their value. It won't be, I mean, it may be in a steal after 7, and may be in a make a shot. I mean, and like I say with Davion in Miami, I thought they, as usual, Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley, they got him out there and made him prove himself. But then as he did, he just kept getting more and more minutes. And finally, he was playing 32, 35 minutes a game because he was good at it and competed. And now where that'll go, I don't know. But any player, I think anybody that's ever played basketball knows that it's really tough, to play 3 or 4 minutes here and then sit down and then try to play another 3 or 4 minutes and get any kind of rhythm. And I always say we're coaches that are jerking guys in and out. I don't think that serves any purpose, really.
And how hard is it for guys to play effectively on offense if you're getting the minutes but not touching the basketball?
Well, that's tough too. Yeah, I always say, I mean, you got your stars, but everybody needs to be able to touch the ball and feel involved. And I think more so than just getting shots, but just being part of the offense. And I think that was, going back to the Beam team, that was one of the great things about that team is that the ball really moved and everybody touched it, and different guys might be stars different nights. I mean, you had your main guys, Fox and Sabonis certainly had the ball more than other guys, but they should have. But everybody was involved, and the reserves came in and were involved, and that's a real key. And I thought last year, we saw a lot of individual ISO stuff, and then what that does so often is there's a couple of guys standing over there scratching their rear ends,
Mm-hmm.
and then it makes it tough for them to kind of be in the game, so to speak. And I think anybody's played it, Y League or something, it's the same thing.
Exactly.
You got 2 guys out there dominating the ball, and pretty soon it's like, where do I fit here?
Yep, that's a difficult thing to deal with at any level of basketball. Your quick thoughts on the Clippers next season, and if Kawhi Leonard can stay happy, do you see him in the top 6?
Well, things stay healthy. They've got plenty of talent. They're old, but it's old talent. And I mean, Chris Paul can still play. He'll help him. Brook Lopez, and I think they got the power forward from Collins from
John Collins,
Utah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's really a talented team. Now, like I say, age-wise, if Harden can still play at the same level, I think he probably can. But Kawhi's the key. If he can play like we saw him at the end of the year and play 70 games at that level and then go into the playoffs healthy, I think they're a legit threat. I do. But that's a big if. Since he last year probably in the playoffs, that's the first time he's been healthy through the playoffs, really.
Yeah, I think James Harden needs to shave his beard if they make the playoffs. He's just got to do something completely opposite.
Yeah, I'm just tired of that beard. It's like, my God, how hot would that? I mean, that'd wear you down almost, wouldn't it? I always remember coming out of college, because we worked him out, had him in for a workout, and he just barely had a kind of a normal light beard, and he's a good looking guy. And anyway, so I don't know, but it's became the beard is now a part of the whole marketing scheme, so to speak, or his brand, I guess.
Yeah. Jerry, if you would have grown one out like that, assuming you could, it would have been a net for like the extra dumplings that missed your mouth. It's a little place to store things.
Yeah, I've tried, and I had a pretty good mustache at one time, but the beard, I always get splotchy, or I just, about the time I just give up on it. So I just,
I hear you. All right, last question from the chat, and then I've got two quick ones, and we'll let you out.
Okay.
I know this was a long time ago. What could of the Kings done differently in the 1990 draft, like trades to move up, etc.?
Ooh, well, that's a great question. I mean, I think obviously number one, draft better. Because I mean, just like with every draft, if you look at every draft, there's always guys taken after where you pick that are better than the guys that you took. I always say, I mean, it's like looking at the Tyreek Evans draft, and Tyreek was Rookie of the Year, and he was terrific. But then there's the Steph Curry taken 7th. Of course, Hasheem Thabit was taken 2nd, who couldn't play a lick.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that's, looking back, you can always go back and look at every draft, which I do or always have, and you see top guys that should have been taken much higher. And of course, there's been years where the Kings really did do a good job. I always say that even the Kenny Smith draft, he was a good draft at 6. But the better pick was Kevin Johnson at 7.
Yeah.
And local. But
local.
You had Kenny, who was really good, but Kevin should be a Hall of Famer. So, we missed there. Nobody questioned it because Kenny was a big star in North Carolina. I mean, there's one of those things. And but you always look back at some drafts, late drafts, which were outstanding. I thought Hito Turkoglu late in the first. Kevin Martin late in the first. We got Vinny Del Negro, I know, in the 2nd round, and had a long, very successful career. So that's the main thing is just getting there. And then, of course, the best draft of all time probably would be Isaiah Thomas.
Yes, last pick.
Last pick, number 60. And like I say there, if you go back there, I mean, there wasn't 5 guys in the lottery that had a better career than he had. And of course,
so
and up till the time he just tore his body up, which is so sad. But that's what you can't calculate either. I always say it's kind of like the Bobby Hurley thing. I think he'd have been really good. I don't know if he'd been a star, but I know he had too much ball handling and competitive spirit and everything. But then, just having your body torn apart, Jay Williams, the same thing, in Chicago, 2nd pick, and he had a motorcycle accident. His career is over. And so sometimes you have to, we don't factor that in. They may have been the right picks. It didn't work out. I always remember a 2nd pick in the draft named Steve Stepanovich out of Missouri. Was Indiana, and he was going to be a major star. And then he had back-to-back kind of major injuries and career over, So, I'm dodging your question, but there's
no.
I mean, at the end of it, that's really all it is draft well. I mean, there's certainly you're always looking to make trades, but there again, with most teams, if you've got a certain pick, they're trying to trade you somebody that they're trying to get rid of to get your pick. And I think generally, if you've got a good pick, you should take it. And I don't see moving up in the draft too much either, because that gets kind of dangerous, to say give up future picks to move up 3 or 4 spots, and then if you get the wrong guy, or get a guy that he might be the right guy, then he gets hurt. Then what have you done?
Mm-hmm.
I think the simple plan probably for the most part works best, and I think is try to draft as well as you can, and then I think that's what you saw the championship contenders. Now they drafted well with late picks, but of course trade and free agency. It's all you got to do all 3 things well at the same time. That's what you can't do it any other way. You have got to figure out a way to be in the free agent hunt, make a couple of good trades, and also draft well. And that's what back in the 2000s, where everything just clicked in all 3 areas.
Well, and you were all connected in all 3 areas, from the court to the front office to the ownership.
Yeah, everything we had, like I say, you can't have a team on the floor till you have one off the floor. And we had it, the relationship with Rick Adelman and Jeff Petrie was great going back. And of course, myself and Wayne Cooper in the front office and Rick's coaching staff, everybody was, on the same page. And at that time, when everything clicked, Jim Thomas was in the process of selling the team, but he wanted to go out on a good note. So, it would really allowed Jeff to make the decisions he needed to make. And so you made great trades, the Weber trade, great drafts, Peja and Jay Will, free agent pickups, Scott Pollard and Vlade Divac and I think John Barry, all very, very important. So, and then, as we've said so many times, then that's your core, and then build on it. Don't then try to find other pieces as you go to make it better. And that's kind of where we've talked about, I think, with the fans here too, is that probably the disappointing thing to me with the Beam team was we didn't really improve on it. It was like we're set, and it's like, no, it's really good, but clearly if you could add another piece to that team and stay young and add another piece and then see where you go. And I think that just didn't happen. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't try, but it didn't happen.
And Jerry, there were opportunities. There were good opportunities that would not have costed much. And at that time, the Kings were back in the good graces of the national media.
Yeah.
Players were talking about wanting to possibly come to Sacramento. We could do another hour on that. We'll talk about it next week. I also want to talk about how the draft is going to change, I think, in the future, how people and teams draft. We'll do that next week. I got to get you out the door. 2 questions left for you. The first is, by this time next week, when we are doing our segment, who on the roster will be gone, and will there be anybody new on the roster?
I'm kind of thinking that they're probably next week when we talk, we'll be talking about the same team.
All right.
I know there's a lot of rumors out there, and I'd like to see movement, but now you're getting into August, and that's usually a dead time. I can see more likely even during the September period, and maybe teams would be quicker to move because I know all the speculation, with Kuminga and everything, but at some point he doesn't get a pick. The Warriors will make the deal they want to make. He's their property. So yeah, I kind of think this team is where we are now, and like I say, I'm hoping by October, and I'll just say, by camp time, 1st of October, late September, that there isn't a movement. That a couple players for player or whatever that maybe brings in some more length, youth, and athleticism. That's really, I'm at a stage where, without giving names, we need more size, length, and youth. Okay.
Don't keep those names to yourself, please. Do
Yeah.
not give those names. I think too, you can't sign Russell Westbrook until the Kuminga shoe drops. You cannot put another guard on the roster because now you're negotiating power with other teams. They know you absolutely have to get guards off the books, even though the Kings are kind of there.
Yeah, I admire the heck out of the guy, all-time great competitor. And, I think the ship is not totally sailed, but it's out of the harbor. But I'm like you. It's like you've got 3 or 4 guards you can't play now.
Mm-hmm.
How you get them all on? So with Russ, and Russ isn't coming in to not play. When you got a Russell Westbrook, you got to play him, and so I look at that as like, well, who's that going to affect? Well, it's probably going to affect Clifford.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with you.
And I'm not in favor of that. So, but now, if you can move a couple other guards in order to say and Kuminga was the guy you got, or someone that at a different position, which we know you need a different position, then maybe adding Russ would be okay. But right now, I just don't. Like I say, that's the last thing I need is another guard.
Jerry, our heads will start spinning. It'll be nuts. Pandemonium. Last question. Bold prediction. Do you have a bold prediction for next season?
The only real prediction I think I got is I think that Doug Christie will prove to be an outstanding coach.
Okay.
I really do believe that. He can't, I don't think this current roster, he can win 50 games with them, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think whatever talent they have, I think he's going to get maximum effort and wins out of it. And that, to me, it's like if you got a team that's got 30 win talent, and if you get 35 wins, that's excellent coaching.
Amen. I'm going to say Nate Clifford makes one of the all rookie teams. That's going to be my bold prediction. I think he's going to not be like Hallie, that type of player, but a player that you just have to have on the floor. I just think he's going to be one of those guys, Jared.
Well, that'd make the season so much better, to know that your rookie is a real player. And like you say, if he can make one of those all rookie teams, that it does give you a lot of confidence, and then it opens up a lot of other possibilities, because you force trades, and because you've got talent, you've got a lot of guard talent, but it'd be nice to have a rookie that could step in there for the next 10 years, you hope, and be a productive player. So yeah, I like that one. I like that one a lot. I guess if I had to really go out on a limb, I would say I think Isaac Jones proves to be more than just a roster guy. That this year he establishes that he is a legitimate NBA player. It may be a 20-minute guy at a couple of spots, but I really think he's ready to do that.
I love it. It was not a month ago. We were probably a week before Summer League started, and I asked you, does he need to be able to give you 8 to 10 minutes a night for the Kings to, be a 500 team? And you said, yeah. And then you loved what you saw in Vegas, and I'm with you. So, okay. What are you going to be? What are the snacks when you turn on Happy Gilmore? Is it some popcorn? Well, I know you got to be careful with the candy.
No, it's always popcorn. And I know that's, in case there's a diabetic doctor watching, I know it's not good for me. I don't care. I'm going to eat popcorn.
I love it. I love it, Jared. Thank you so much. Enjoy the movie. Send me a text message on what you think of it, because
all right.
I'm interested.
Can't wait to see you guys next week.
All right. You're the best. Thank you, Jerry. I know everybody is very grateful that Jerry joins us on Tuesdays. What a great conversation. Ran long. We did not get to what I had kind of teased, because that's what happens. Y'all put in some really good questions, and I know we didn't get to some of them. If you did have a question and I didn't put it up, it's probably because it was already answered before you came on. But if there was any, like Zach, I saw yours. What's up, dude? We hit that at one point before you were here. But big thoughts coming off of the talk with Jerry. I know he's going to enjoy Happy Gilmore too. Him and his son will enjoy that a lot. Do you guys have any bold predictions as we wrap up about the Kings next season? Let's see, Mark. So Jerry not willing to give up Monk or Keon for Kuminga, but willing to give up DeRozan and or Carter. Yeah, because Devin Carter is the Kings are in purgatory. Devin Carter is in like double purgatory because of the backlog at guard and the fact that the Kings aren't going to be a defensive-minded team. They're going to be an effort-based team. I loved what Jerry said about Doug Christie as well. Doug will get the most out of them. I don't think that's the questions that we want answers about when it comes to Doug Christie. I think the bigger questions are the X's and O's. So now he's put together his own staff. Woody, Coach Woodson was out there with Doug at Summer League. They seem to be going back and forth. One interesting thing that Jerry said a couple of weeks ago, I think it's a yin to the yang, which you need, is Woody, he'll get on the guys. He's not afraid to speak up and tell you did something wrong. Not that Doug doesn't do that. Doug does it in a different way. You know, he's always talking about loving on his players. You need that balance. So big thanks again to Jerry for joining us as he usually does on Tuesdays. We are not done today on the channel. Grant will be back tonight at 8 o'clock. Make sure you drop back in. Come say what's up to him. If there was anything that you want to ask him based off of the conversation we just had with Jerry, give him a call. He'll be here 8 p.m. for Napes. We will be back tomorrow right here, 3 o'clock. Thank you all. Really appreciate it. Remember, we are looking to get one more thumbs up than the previous day. Y'all kicked butt yesterday. I think we were at 34. So thank you very much. Keep that going. We're going to pay that off here with y'all been asking for a get together. And we want to be able to get together with you. It's more of a scheduling thing. And you know where we're going to have that get together. It will definitely be Bennett's American Cooking, the West Side Grill, prime cuts of seafood and steak, all 3 locations in the greater Sacramento area. Roseville, Rockland, Howe, and Fair Oaks, whatever's most convenient to you. Cool thing about Bennett's is every day there's a special running. Happy hour, 2 to 6 o'clock, 7 days a week. Really good happy hour, by the way. Brunch on the weekends, bubbles and brunch. You get a bottle of champagne and 2 entrees, $45.99. And Brian just rolled out the Taste of Summer menu. 2 entrees, $30. Might as well pay for the extra $5 to get the dessert. It's well worth it. Go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. You can check out all the offerings. One thing that I can promise you is you are going to get fabulous food without the expensive price tag. Awesome ambiance too. If you take your parents there, like if you're in college, you take your parents there, they're going to ask you like, are you doing something on the side? Like, are you selling stuff you're not supposed to be selling? No, Bennett's is just that good and that affordable. Thank you for all of you that have gone out and supported them and given us feedback on them as well. We pass it along to Brian and certainly let us know if you're going in. We'll give Brian a heads up. He loves hearing from all of you. So, all right, I think we are done. We ran long today. Big show. A lot of the show earlier dominated about football, CTE talk, but Tuesdays are exactly what what we just had it for. It is Jerry Reynolds. So join Grant again, 8 o'clock later tonight. He'll be doing his open forum. Until tomorrow, thank you very much for allowing me into your offices, your homes, your ears, your devices, whatever it may be, to talk basketball and sports with you. Really appreciate it. You always make the show better. Join Grant tonight, 8. Go Kings. Light the beam. Court dismissed.
Order in the court. Jeez. Whew. That's a great question. Every team really needs what I call a shitbird.